All right, it's early morning, and I've decided that today I'm gonna try to set the computer up so that's actually a little bit higher up, because I feel like when I watch back every single video, I'm sitting like a freaking the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I don't want to do that. So I need to set it up on something. I'm going to, I think, order some sort of laptop stand. The thing is, I have two screens there, which I could connect my laptop to, but I don't really like it. I like it for the stationary PC, but not for the laptop. And right now, I just feel like I like the idea of being able to move around and sit in the living room if I want to, or sit in the kitchen, or sit in here. And I just like the idea that I can sit wherever I want. And if I use that, then I can't sit wherever I want. So I think a little laptop stand would be nice. But today I don't really have one, but I have lots of books, as you can see. So I have a ton of books that I have read some of them and haven't read some of them. And I'm going to just stack books and put my computer on those books and hopefully have a little bit better of a work environment, more ergonomic. And then we're going to get to the actual coding, which is going to be creating this is going to be a backend day, a proper backend day, I think, because we're going to actually work on the Lambda server side of the AWS server. And we're going to set up a Lambda function, which I've never done before, and create an algorithm, just a basic algorithm to test out, like, how does it work, and can I get something? Can I create an algorithm on the server that I can then retrieve stuff from into the app, the front end? That's going to be the task for today. And I have high hopes, but as I am very aware, I know the high hopes that I have, there's a high chance or high possibility that this will be a lot more difficult than I think it should be. But we'll see. Okay, I think this is a pretty good spot. And Power Moves book, if you listen to the Hamish and Andy podcast. Paul Stamets, Fantastic Fungi. The Art of the Batman, which is a book I got because I was really inspired by the cinematography in the latest Batman movie. And then we have the Lord of the Rings sketchbook by Alan Lee, which I think is a must-have, obviously. All right, let's see how that feels. Okay, I think we need it a little bit higher still. The Sailor's Book of Small Cruising Sailboats. This is a book I got that wasn't really what I wanted, because I thought this was going to be a book about like, I think maybe it is a good book, I don't know, but it was mostly, or it's from what I can tell, it's pretty much only American boats, which aren't that common here in Sweden. So it's sort of like a textbook on almost all of the American sailboats. From what I remember, it was a long time since I looked at this, but I just remember feeling like, oh, well, this doesn't really make sense for me to read, because it's about boats that I will not be looking at. And then we have my absolute favorite sketchbook of all time, and this is the Frank Frazetta sketchbook. I don't know which version it is, which one, but it's the only one that I could get my hands on. And I think that the way that he sketches, I think it's just so, I don't know, it's so cool, and I really like the simplicity. There's this one. I love this sketch because it's so simple. Like he doesn't do, it's almost like I like the idea when artists do like the fewest lines possible or the least amount of detail possible, but still manage to get something that's so like telling about what they're actually drawing. So some people can do that very well, and Frank Frazetta was one of them. Okay, enough with that. Now we have a setup, I think. This should be good enough. And then we need a keyboard and a mouse. Keyboard. Okay, so here's the setup. The mouse has almost no battery, so we'll see how long that lasts. But I think this will be pretty good for now, until I can get a laptop stand. Okay, so let's just start with the how do we swipe between screens? Oh yeah, we use Control to swipe between screens. Okay, I think we got it. Okay, so I'm just going to follow this tutorial, this official one, instead of using ChatGPT this time. So I'm going to follow this, and I'm going to follow it to the dot, so that hopefully we can understand it. I think we're going to use Python because I know Python a little bit. Okay, so I think I actually did it now. We have a function that works, which is great. This function basically just gets all the users, which will be part of the algorithm, I think. I'm not sure what the best way to do things are, but one way to do it is get all the users and then find. So one way is basically have one function that just gets all the users, and then we have another function somewhere else that what do you say, that uses that function. So basically, this function is a matching algorithm, and that asks for, first we need to get all the users, so that gets all the users to this function, and then inside that function we use all the user IDs to actually figure out the logic behind who we should match with who. And yeah, so that's the first step, is just get all of the users. And then once we can do that, we can move on to the next thing. So now we actually have that function. So the next thing is to create the matching algorithm, I think. Now this matching algorithm will be based on distance. So we need to know whereabouts they are. So that means that we now the question is, should the get function for get all the users, should that be where we filter out by location? Okay, so this is not going to be optimal. I guess I have to understand that, but I would like to make it as good as it could be. So what I'm thinking is, like, where should the logic happen? Should the logic, because you want to make it as efficient as possible, you don't want to, let's say that you have 1 million users. You don't want to get all of the users unless you actually have to. And so let's say that we have some users in America, some users in Switzerland, then, and let's say that the calls are going to be based on who's closest to you, then it doesn't really make sense for the people in Switzerland to get, or for the server essentially to list all of the users that exist. It actually makes more sense to just list the users in Switzerland for those guys if they are doing calls. And in America, it just makes sense to list the users there for them. So the question is, where does that logic happen? Does that logic happen, like, do we get all of the users first and then filter it out? Or do we send a parameter into this function as well, which is like get all the users with this location? I don't really know. Okay. But I'm pretty happy about this though. Like, we actually have a function that works. List users. I mean, this is exciting to me. Like, I've done things like this before, but I haven't done it properly. Like, this is properly done. Like, we're using Lambda, which is like a real thing. and we're doing like back-end logic stuff that I feel pretty good about this. I feel like I can actually accomplish building this app on my own, which I've been very like back and forth about that for this entire build. Just not knowing, can I actually complete this on my own, or do I need help for it? And right now it actually seems like I don't need help. I don't think. I think I could do this. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT, because I think this is one of those questions that's actually pretty good for ChatGPT, which is like, where should the logic happen? I think this is something that ChatGPT kind of understands, but I don't. Okay. Okay, so I think that this is something that I have to think about properly, like actually sit down and try to figure out what is the logic going to be like, and how is the actual process going to work. Because let's say I launch the app and there's only like 5 users, then maybe I don't want to limit it to a certain distance, because then if the distance is limited, then some people might not get to talk. So it should be something where it will start out trying to get people as close together as possible, but then if there's like if the max amount of matches for that call isn't reached within the distance, then it will expand the distance and it will look for people there, and then it will expand the distance and look for people there, and it will keep going until it finds someone, or if there's no one else out there, then there's no one else out there. And that could be a way to do it. The backend also needs to take care of, like, yeah, there's a lot of things that it needs to take care of, and I'm not fully up to speed with what needs to be done. So I need to sit down and just think about this for a bit. But now I'm gonna run some errands and come back in a bit, and we'll see if we can manage to get this done. All right. All right, so I have just been shopping a little bit and getting my girlfriend a Valentine's Day gift, which I can't show you, unfortunately, just in case she might watch this video. Even though realistically, she's not gonna watch an hour of me just coding. But if she would, I don't want to accidentally spoil it by showing it in this video, so I'm not going to. But I'm doing great today. Like this morning, my uncle's wife, I think, texted me. I was like, can you help me, can you drive me somewhere at 10 a.m.? And that was at 7:30-ish in the morning. And I was like, oh fuck, if I do that, then I have to leave at 9:30. And that means I have about 2 hours. And what I typically do when that sort of stuff happens is I end up not working in those 2 hours because I feel like I don't have time to get started, especially like filming, because I have to set up the mic, I have to set up the camera, I have to do things. And so in my head, that kind of becomes a task that would take too long, so that I won't have enough time to actually film for it to be worth starting to film, if that makes sense. So what I typically would have done is I would have had breakfast and just hung around, basically, maybe gone for a little walk or something, and then gone to pick her up and done this errand and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like 11 a.m. and I haven't worked. But what I did instead was, like you saw, I got started straight away, and now it's like I've already done an hour and a half, I think, of actual coding, and now I've done the errand as well. So now I've had breakfast, driven her, bought the gift, and already started the video and done 1.5 hours of work. So to me, that's actually pretty good, because it means that when I get home, I don't have this task that I haven't checked off my list, which is just start the video, because I've already started it. And now I can do 1.5 hours more, and all of a sudden I've done 3 hours today, and it won't be like 4 p.m., which typically is what would happen when I have something to do at 10 a.m. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just wanted to say, like, I'm trying to do that a little bit more. Just get to work, even though it might not be optimal. I might not have a 3-hour window to just work. I can still do work, even if it's just 1 hour or 30 minutes. That is still time, and that is still time to make progress on whatever it is I'm working on. So trying to think a little bit more about, like, 30 minutes is better than nothing, and not 30 minutes is nothing. Because typically I would just think that, like, in 30 minutes I won't have time to even start, so it doesn't make sense to try because I won't get anywhere, so I won't make any meaningful progress. When in reality, I think I would actually make quite a bit of progress in 30 minutes. I think my time perception might be a little bit off. I'm really good at estimating how long things will take, but I think I'm very bad at understanding how much I can get done in a short amount of time. I don't know if those two are like, what would that be? Like, I don't know if that's a contradiction, where you can't be good at estimating how much time things take and simultaneously be bad at understanding how much you will get done in a certain time. But because I think I'm pretty good at estimating how much time things take in general. I feel like a lot of people around me are like, oh, well, we can do that, and we can do that, and we can do that. And then sometimes I'll be like, in my head, I'm like, well, I don't think we have time to do those 3 things in the next 45 minutes. And sometimes I say it, and sometimes I don't, just to test myself to see, was I correct or was I incorrect about how much time these things take? And maybe this sounds like I'm super arrogant about this, but like genuinely, I feel like I'm pretty good at estimating that stuff. So typically, I am correct about it. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, I'm also very bad at understanding that like in 1 hour, I can get a lot of work done. And that's where I need to get better. I don't know, this was a random car talk for you. Now we'll get back to the apartment and continue working. All right, quick little side tangent here. This cat is the strangest cat in the world because for some reason this thing, which is his I don't know, like it's part of his collar or something. I'm cat sitting. This is my cousin's cat. And it's part of his collar. And for some reason, this is his favorite toy in the world. And as you can tell, if I'm just like, okay, maybe not now, obviously, because I'm filming, but I'll see if I can get if I can remember to cut in a video that I shot last time I was here, where this cat literally plays fetch, which is just unheard of with cats, at least for me. I've never heard of a cat that plays fetch, but he does play fetch with this toy that he has. I don't know why, but he does. Why do you do that? All right, we're gonna do another hour of this, and we'll see where we're at the end of that hour. Okay, so I have to think through the way that it's going to work. What are you doing? Right, I think there's a lot of work that has to be done here. Right now, for the user info, like we don't have anything in the database other than an email and the user ID. So there really isn't anything else. I don't even know if we have a proper database or if it's just like a user database. I don't know if there's a difference or what we have. But we need to make sure that we have a database for each user that can contain name, age, gender preference. So this is like, it's going to be a dating app. I'm going to reveal that much. It's going to be a dating app, and so we need a gender preference, and then we need to have an age preference, a location, and radius. And then we need to have pictures, we need to have a profile picture, we need to have a list of matches, list of likes, and list of dislikes. So likes are people that you've liked but haven't matched with yet, and dislikes are people that you've disliked and you don't want to match with. And all of these things have to be taken into account, I think, when we do the matching algorithm, because we can't just take one guy, one girl, match them together. It has to be according to age, age preference, and gender preference, and it also has to be within the radius. It has to not be someone that you've already disliked, but haven't matched with. And it can't be one of your existing matches. So there's a lot of things that need to be taken into account, and all of these things that need to be taken into account need to be created, I think, before we can start doing the algorithm. I think it's good that we've created one way to get users at least, so we know how to do that. The next best thing. Now, I don't know how to handle that stuff, because what ChatGPT suggested was create a function called something like get proximal users. And then we take the user ID of the person that needs to get these users, and the location of that user, and the radius, blah, blah, blah. But the question is, should maybe all the matching should take place on the server, in which case we won't have a user ID of a specific start user, because the server has all of the users and it's not a specific user. So it has all of the users, and it needs to be basically sorting through all of these users and sorting them into different buckets of matches, which, well, I guess it doesn't really matter, does it? Maybe it does. Maybe we can sort proximal users. I'm kind of curious as to like how something like Tinder started out, because at the start there wouldn't have been that many people on the app, which means that location would have been an issue, because if there are only 5 people in the app and they are located in, like, one is in Nebraska and one is in California, I think those two places are far apart, then it wouldn't really make sense for them to match in the app as it looks today. But as it would have looked back then when there was only 5 users, then maybe it doesn't make sense to keep them apart, because then you just limit the amount of people that you would be able to match with. I don't really know how they would deal with that, to be honest. Because it's also not great for an app to match people that are way too far apart, because then it's like, well, yeah, it's fun that we matched, but we can't really meet or do anything because we're too far apart. So it does have to have some sort of location thing. The other option that I have in my head is that you could do, or I could do, ads. So the idea for me is that this is going to be like an event thing, because it's going to be an event where you basically join a call and you get to talk to random people of the gender that you want to talk to. And you have 1 hour with 5-minute conversations per person. And then after each conversation, you get 1 minute to see pictures of that person that you just talked to. And you can decide whether you want to match or whether you want to like that person or not. And then you move on to the next conversation. You get 5 minutes with that person, and you do that for 1 hour. And that's going to be like an event that for the app. And the idea with the event is that you can market an event. So I could do like Instagram ads for that as like an event here where I live. And that way it's, I don't know, I think that's a pretty good idea. And that could also solve the issue of the location thing, because if you do an event that's just like, well, this event is just in this city, then people kind of have to be from the city to sign up for the event, which limits in some ways, but it also maybe increases the potential of the event actually going well, because people will be close to each other. I don't know, maybe I'll do a video where I just explain what the actual idea of the app is. I'm just hesitant because I feel like I'm not the fastest at building this. And if I say the idea, then maybe someone else will just build it in like a week and beat me to it, which is possible. I think it's very possible, actually. But yeah, I think we need to get understanding of like how do you add stuff to the database to begin with. Do we even have that set up, or do we need to set something up for it? Okay, so I'm trying something now where I changed this to say hello instead of to do. And then we have the database manager here. And this table says to do, but now I've changed it. So I wanted to see if I can change that by just doing, by just changing it here. If that does update this thing, then we can start creating the information for a user. So like name, pictures, all those sort of things, I think we can add here. Not entirely sure, but I think we can. And I also figured out that when you run the this command, the ampx sandbox blah blah blah, then that creates an amplify outputs file that's connected to some auto-generated app ID. And that app ID will be constant, so that will be the same app ID all the time in this folder, I think. But if we want to connect it to the server, then unable to query data. Validation type field undefined. Field list hellos in type query is undefined. Either way, what it means is that if we manually go into our amplify outputs.dart file, and we set the app ID to be this app ID, and we set the user pools and all that stuff to be the correct ones, then it does connect to this, to the server, I guess. Because I think this, when you run the sandbox command, you're actually running it locally on your computer. You're actually, like, the server becomes your computer, which means that you can still upload users or create users in the database on Amazon, but the user database on Amazon, I think, is just another server that they use for that stuff. So you're basically, I think this is what happens. I connect to my own server, and that server then sends the user information, all that, the requests and all that stuff to Amazon. But what I'm doing now is I don't have my own server. I'm connecting to the Amplify server, uploading the users to the Amplify server, and then I hope, yeah, I think I can still do Lambda stuff on there as well. I just need to change the Lambda function, I'm pretty sure. So if we have our list users thing, if we go to Lambda, wait. Actually, let's create another user just to make sure that we actually have this the way that I think. So okay, so we actually now, I updated the Lambda function, so now we're getting 2 users. We have the first one, which is Milner Hans, and then we have the second one, which is Holden Cal. So we do get 2 users from the new database, and the new database is on our Amplify backend, so that seems to work. The only thing that didn't work was the hello table. Okay, maybe it did work, actually. Okay, it seems like it did work. Strange. either way, now I guess we can just get to creating a table for a user with all the information that we want a user to have. And then we can use that information to get in our thing, I think. Yeah, then we can use that to create an algorithm that we can then use to match users. But that's going to be it for today, and I'll come back in the next video and hopefully set up the stuff that we need for the database. So that'll be pretty exciting, I think. All right, see you in the next one.